2019, San Jose Airport, California. A private Gulfstream G650 is coming in for landing. On board, Adam Neumann, co-founder of WeWork. Along with him, a case full of cash, bottles of tequila, and traces of marijuana smoked mid-flight. He's arrived to negotiate another deal while his company is rapidly spiraling toward financial collapse. Meanwhile, in New York, 2,400 WeWork employees are receiving layoff notices, and the company's valuation is plummeting from $47 billion to $8 billion. This is the story of how one man made $1.7 billion by destroying his own company and wiping out billions in investor money. 2010, New York City. Adam Neumann, together with Miguel McKelvey, opens the first space under the WeWork brand. The idea is simple. The company rents large office spaces, renovates them, divides them into smaller offices, and sublets them to startups, freelancers, and small businesses. But instead of calling it real estate, Neumann calls it a revolution in the way we live. Before this, Neumann had tried himself in various roles. His first business was selling baby onesies with knee pads. It failed, but Adam learned a key lesson. A well-presented idea sells better than the product itself. And that became the foundation for WeWork.
We're a company that builds communities. We have our mission, our main thing that we do is curate and create culture.
His partner Miguel, an architect by training, helped with design. But from day one, all the attention was focused on Adam. He was building not only a company, but a personal cult. He walked barefoot in the office, quoted philosophers, and spoke about a future where everyone would live and work in unity. And he managed to convince investors of this. The first to believe was venture capital firm Benchmark. They invested $17 million in WeWork, and that amount instantly changed everything. Instead of just a few offices in New York, the company rapidly scaled across America. In Boston, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Washington, Seattle, and other cities, 23 new locations opened, each presented as part of a bigger vision. A vision where Neumann was the central figure. He loved attention. His speeches resembled those of a spiritual leader. He spoke about the meaning of life, about how people had lost connection with each other, and how WeWork would restore it.
If you want to change the world, start by changing yourself and doing by setting an example. We actually can change the world. I believe our mission as Jews on this planet is to set the best example we can do.
His words often lacked specifics, but sounded inspiring. And that was enough to captivate venture capitalists who wanted to invest in something more than just office space.
Shalom Shanghai! This is the Nashville show!
I'm looking for a company that's going to change the world.
It was the Creator Awards that gave us that fuel. There's so much talk in this world.
Inside the company, his cult only intensified. Employees were asked to give standing ovations after his speeches, and no one dared to question his ideas. For many, he was not a CEO, but a prophet.
Us together, all of us here, is every one of us is here because it has a meaning, because we want to do something that actually makes the world a better place, and we want to make money doing it.
Neumann also managed to convince everyone that WeWork was a tech startup. Even though the company didn't build software or own any patented innovations, Neumann argued that just like Uber transformed transportation and Airbnb transformed hospitality, WeWork was transforming how people work. He was selling a dream, and investors bought into it. With the influx of millions in new investments, WeWork begins rapid global expansion. London, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Berlin, Shanghai. In just a few years, the company grows to over 100 offices across dozens of countries, rents millions of square meters of office space, and declares ambitious plans. To investors, it looks like massive expansion, but behind that dynamic growth lies a different reality. Every new office means costs: rent, renovations, furniture, staff, marketing. But revenue doesn't cover the expenses. In 2018, the company loses $1.6 billion. That's the official figure. But instead of stopping or optimizing the model, Neumann calls it investment in the future. He tells investors that profit isn't the priority. Growth, scale, and mission, that's what matters.
And building big companies, that is not the goal. The goal is finding something that you truly love. Make sure it has intention behind it. Make sure it's going to make the world a better place.
The core idea becomes we, an abstract concept of a future where work, education, and life are integrated into one space. Under this idea, Neumann launches additional projects. We Live, residential complexes promising a new way of living. We Grow, an alternative school for children. But none of these ideas become functioning businesses. The key investor becomes SoftBank. Masayoshi Son, the legendary Japanese businessman, believes in Neumann's charisma. After their first meeting, he decides to invest over $4 billion. Despite the heavy losses in reports, Neumann promises a global revolution. Adam receives the funds and full freedom of action. He starts using the money not only to scale the business, but also for personal use. He buys a $60 million private jet. He purchases real estate and rents it out to WeWork. In other words, the company rents property from its own founder. This is a textbook conflict of interest. But inside WeWork, no one questions it. Neumann also begins actively acquiring tech startups, often without a clear strategy. Among the purchases, educational platforms, AI and analytics services, even friends businesses, like a pool company that makes artificial waves. He spends hundreds of millions of dollars to create the illusion that WeWork is not just a rental business, but a major innovation holding. These projects are used to justify the company's valuation in investor presentations. But in reality, they only increase costs, generate no revenue, and are shut down within months. Despite this, the company's valuation keeps climbing. At its peak, WeWork is valued at $47 billion. And publicly, everything moves toward the logical next step, an initial public offering. The company prepares to go public. But before the IPO happens, Neumann starts selling off his own shares, more than $700 million worth. This raises questions. Why is the founder cashing out if he truly believes in the company? In August 2019, WeWork finally files for IPO, and from that moment, everything begins to fall apart. What had been covered by slogans and Neumann's charisma for years now becomes public. The documents reveal an unexpectedly harsh truth. The company isn't just unprofitable, it's drowning in debt. Expenses far exceed income, and the entire operation runs purely on investor cash. At that time, WeWork has over 700 locations in 39 countries, spending over 80% of its revenue just to cover rent, more than $2.7 billion per year. Journalists from the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and Bloomberg begin publishing exposés one after another. All the details that had remained in the shadows are now widely known. Neumann used investor money for personal needs, a private jet worth tens of millions supposedly for work travel, personal properties rented to his own company, all under the guise of changing the world. It also emerges that Adam registered the trademark We under a separate company, then sold those rights to WeWork for $6 million. The public backlash forces him to return the money, but the episode highlights how Neumann treated investor funds as personal assets. The market panics. The company's valuation, once $47 billion, crashes to $8 billion. Instead of the highly anticipated public offering, total collapse. The IPO is canceled. WeWork pulls the documents.
These investment banks should have known better. We've seen people fall victims to these charismatic types before. This house of cards was coming down. This is a failure in misunderstanding what the marketplace is.
Lead investor SoftBank tries to save the company, but under one condition: Neumann must leave. In October 2019, Adam Neumann resigns, but not empty-handed. He's granted $1.7 billion in payouts, part stock buyout, part compensation. He walks away a billionaire, while investors who had put in hundreds of millions see their capital wiped out. Thousands of employees lose their jobs. People who believed in the mission and worked 14-hour days receive layoff notices. In total, the company is forced to lay off 2,400 people, around 20% of its workforce. The company doesn't even have enough cash to offer standard severance. So, SoftBank injects another $6 billion to cover debts and stabilize what remains. A massive restructuring begins. Crisis managers cancel We Live, We Grow, freeze global expansion, and shut down hundreds of offices, reducing to just 66 locations. Everything that once seemed massive is reduced to a struggle for survival. After the pandemic, in 2023, WeWork officially files for bankruptcy. A company once valued at $47 billion can no longer pay rent. This isn't the story of a classic fraud scheme, but it is the story of how one man built a company on promises with no viable business model and profited from it. Legally, Neumann broke no laws, but in practice, he took advantage of trust, hid behind lofty slogans, misled investors, and left the company buried in billions of debt while walking away with billions in personal wealth. I'm working to make these videos longer and better. If you'd like to support the channel, consider joining through YouTube membership. And as always, like and subscribe for more. Thank you.